Welcome back to Mic'd Up with Mama Shaun, where we blend leadership, life, and learning through faith. I am your amazing host, and I am here with a friend of mine that if you have heard any of my other podcasts, Early Childhood Coach with Childcare Experience, Hilda Garza, you know who she is, and you know how amazing she is. So she is our guest host, and she is our amazing guest today. So I want everyone to welcome my friend. She might as well be sisters at this point. A powerhouse educator, and she brings joy with a little bit of spark. Hilda Garza, girl, I can't say your name. Hilda Garza, who is mic'd up with me today. We're going to dive into some amazing topics. Learning through laughter. We're going to be learning through laughter, which her and I do every time we meet. So without further ado, welcome my friend Hilda.
Hello, podcast listeners. How's everyone
Welcome.
doing out there?
Welcome. They're doing fine.
I hope so. They got to be crazy to listen to me.
Yeah. Oh my God. So if you are an educator or a parent or a leader, whoever needed a good laugh to survive the day, then this episode is for you. We laugh all the time. Very rarely do we have serious conversation, but we do have them, but very rarely do we have serious conversation. And it is a joy and a privilege every time we get to hang out together. I have no bad, sad, evil stories about this girl. And so I'm going to let her, because she tells it better than I do. And it's a proud story. But I'm going to give her a few minutes to introduce herself, tell it about herself, and tell her what our history is like. So, Hilda, take it away.
Well, thank you. So, our history goes way, way back when Rashawn was just a child, literally 17, still in high school, trying to find her way in the world. And she ended up at a learning center, and she had all this passion and spark, and she was all smiles all the time and just happy. It was actually kind of annoying, but I really took to her. And there was an incident one time when we had our boss, I was her assistant director, was not qualified to be a director. And Rashawn had reported something that needed to be reported, right? She was an advocate, and she understood the assignment and knew what she had to do. And when it was reported, she was reprimanded for it. So much so that she lost her job.
Yep.
And, you know, I remember going up to her and telling her that she shouldn't let anybody tell her what she's capable of doing and not doing, because this person told her that she should never be in childcare, that she wasn't qualified. And look at her now.
Yep.
And I remember telling her that. And the next day, me and my boss getting into an argument about it. And it made me walk out as well. I left that job because we are taught to be advocates, to be voices for these children, and we were being shown the complete opposite. And how could I let someone, an adult, talk to a teenage girl that way and say, no, you're wrong, when she actually wasn't wrong? She was doing the right thing. And so that is where our friendship blossomed.
Yep.
And I would run into her periodically throughout the years. I think one time I ran into her at the zoo. She
Yep.
was on a field trip with the daycare, and so on and
Yep.
so forth. And then fast forward, was it like 20 years later? I run into
Yeah.
her at an
Yeah.
alliance meeting,
Yeah.
and she's telling me that she owns a daycare now and all this amazing stuff that she's done, and still remains that happy-go-lucky girl looking at the positive in everything. And she just hasn't changed a bit. And I'm so glad that she hasn't, because of her, she has been the voice for many children who didn't have a voice. So it's an honor and a privilege to know her. And after all these years, to still maintain our friendship, to just pick up right where we left off. So that's
Yeah.
a great feeling. Someone
Yeah.
that, again, learning through laughter, you have to laugh at some of these situations, because I laugh about it now. It wasn't funny when it happened to her, because she genuinely was heartbroken
I
and
was.
so torn down, and it made me so angry, and I see her now, and it's like, good. She never let that overpower her. But that was something very difficult to get over because of the
Yeah.
way it was said, the way you were treated. Like, I'm just so proud of the woman that you've become and owning your own daycare center. Like, who does that? Only Mama Shaun.
Ah, girl, girl, girl. And it's so funny because I passed that center. I still live in the same house. I pass that center all the time, and I remember the good and the bad. But it wasn't until that experience that probably woke up something in me that's like, no, fight for these kids. And that situation was pretty bad. And now that I am, further along in my career, I bring that story up and I can laugh about it because
Right.
I will always say and ask other educators, you and I have talked about this extensively, that I was in the right. And I stand by the fact that I was in the right. But it was a learning, that was my first job, first time I got fired. And the first time I dealt with a rude employer, boss, and
Right.
it was like 3 and 1 on my first gig, and I was like, oh my goodness. It was interesting. So, yeah, it was just a lot. But some days laughter is the only thing holding our ideas together, holding our thoughts together, holding our mouths together, right? We want to
For sure.
explode when things go crazy. And then there's times when things go off script, like we've been trying for the last 45 minutes to get this going. And when we got on, I'm just like, girl, and we're both just laughing and giggling because it's just like, man, things don't always go as planned, things don't always go like how we want them to. So we're going to dive into some amazing questions that I think would help people understand really what it means to laugh. And I am that kind of person. I love to make people laugh. I love to see people laugh. When people aren't laughing, I'm miserable because I love to genuinely see people smile and be happy. So let me ask you, what made you laugh this week? What's the one thing that just made you just bust out laughing where you're just like, only in Hilda's life or only in childcare? No one else would believe me.
Um, I would have to say the whole week in general. Like,
Right?
like you said, it's very unexpected. Like, there's no
Mhm.
script. For childcare, there is no script. And every day brings something new, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're starting a new week, and you got your schedule out, you know who's coming in, and then you have one employee that's going on vacation. You're like, great, no problem. I made the schedule. Everybody's covered, right?
Yep.
And then you get the text message at 10 o'clock at night. I have the flu. I
Mm,
can't come in all week. Okay, not a problem. I We're gonna be okay. Well, guess what? Those two people that are out are your bus drivers.
ooh,
So now you and your assistant have to drive the bus, which means you leave the center alone, which means in that 1 hour increment, something's going to go wrong
yeah.
because something always goes wrong.
Yeah.
And so yesterday was my breaking point when I had four people out. And I was,
Girl.
I was like, I literally cried. And then I started
Oh,
laughing by myself in my office. And I remember
yes.
looking up and saying, really, God, this is not funny. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I had one of those moments where I had to snap myself out of it and just laugh and be like, only me. Only me
yeah.
would this happen to me. But you know
Yes.
what? I got through it. I got
Yep.
through it. And I think laughing at myself was like, how the heck did you even get into this predicament? Like, I didn't even ask for it. It just happened. And so this whole week has been one thing or another. And if it's
Yeah.
not an employee complaint, it's a parent complaint or it's something. And you really have to laugh at it sometimes because
Yep.
it's what keeps me going. You know, some of the
Fact.
questions or some of the comments, it's kind of like, wow, did they really just say that to me? You know, and
Yeah.
you have to laugh to keep from crying or to keep from exploding, because
Right.
if you don't, then there's no growth. There's no
Yeah.
next day, because you're gonna
Yep.
bury yourself in that stress and that I don't want to come back the next day. So you kind of have to
Yeah.
laugh at it, you know?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
like I said, just walking down the hall in my center and hearing, you know, a 2 year old tell another 2 year old, don't touch it, leave it
Yeah.
alone. And they're literally all hovering over this little roly poly. And
Oh.
you think to yourself, man, if my life was just that amazing, that was, you know what I mean? Like the highlight of my day.
Yeah.
That's my only issue was, are we stepping on the bug or are we not stepping on the bug? And one person
Right.
protecting it. Like their little minds, you know,
Yeah.
and that just makes me laugh. Just the way they think, you know, like not a care in the world. So I have to do the same thing every day.
Yeah. And I think for me, I love to hear my kids laugh. Like, I love to hear them laugh. I love, they are rambunctious. And that means that we all have to stay on. Um,
Right.
but when they're being rambunctious and they're communicating with each other, and, like you said, they're like, don't touch the roly poly. And just in their mind, how they're navigating not touching this
Right.
roly poly. And then they start laughing. When kids laugh, they retain more. They're just excited. They're happy. They can be free more. And I think teachers need to laugh more too, right? In this
Right.
business, we can create and be crazy and be silly and all the things. And people need to laugh. This is the one field I think where, although it is stressful in its own right, we have the power to say, okay, let's take this moment right now. We're going to observe our kids. We're just going to be in tune, and we're just going to laugh. Kids do something funny, it tickles me. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to
I'm
be
gonna
right
laugh.
here. Yeah, I'm just going to laugh and have a good time. So the other question I think that is so important, that, when you were just talking about right now about talking to yourself, right? As leaders, we talk to ourselves often.
All
And
the
people are
time.
like, did you call me? No. And I get tickled at myself, because I'm just like, girl, who are you talking to? Right? Like, there is nobody in this room but you, right? Um, why do you think laughter is so powerful in the early childhood space?
um, I think for if we're talking in the kid sense, I think
Mm-hmm.
for them, their laughter is um is what makes them grow and learn, because
Yeah.
you can tell that they're enjoying themselves, so they're getting deeper into what they're doing,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's really important, because when you're happy, you're learning, you're absorbing all these awesome vibes, as the kids say, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yep. Yep.
it's contagious. And as grown-ups, if we can't laugh at ourselves or these situations, then we're not growing or evolving as human beings. Because
Right.
if we're not learning from that, we're not learning from our kids, how do we expect our kids to learn from us? Like, I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
this happens to you, but I can close my eyes and I can identify the kids in my building. I can identify their laughters. Like, I already know who's laughing. And because of the way they laugh, like everybody has a special
Right.
little laugh, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, when I see that my teachers are frustrated, I'll go in there and, Rashawn, you know me. I
Mm-hmm.
I have a remark for everything. And sometimes it's
You
not very
do.
appropriate. I am an HR nightmare. Like, I am just an HR nightmare. But if I can go in there and distract them from what's stressing them out and just make a smart butt remark, and then
Yeah.
kind of look at me and, did you really just say that? And then they bust out laughing, then I did my job.
Yep.
Because I tell them, if you take yourself so serious, how do you expect these kids to follow you and to listen to
Yeah.
you? You know,
Yeah.
like, we have created a community within a community, and this is their safe space. And they just want to come
Absolutely.
here and laugh. They want to know that you're laughing with them. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I
Right.
mean, to me, that's the whole thing of learning. I cannot sit.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
I didn't flunk out of college. My dad pulled me out of college because let's just say I ran the credit card bill up with too many bar
Ooh,
tabs. And he was like,
ooh,
look, you're either going to go work or you're going to, and I thought college is not for me. I learned the hard way. It took me longer. I am not a
right,
person who can sit and be lectured because I'm like, you lost me. Like, I'm so bored. So I take
right,
that with me to my center and I think, these kids don't want to be lectured. They want to have fun. They want to learn through
right,
fun and laughter. They don't want to be
right,
bored. So what's better than
right.
that? You know? So it's
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
It's important. Even
yeah.
even in life, like life here at home, my daughter takes herself very serious. I often
Mm.
say that she's definitely not my child. They traded her out in the hospital with somebody else's because she she is like has the biggest heart and is so kind. And I'm very
Mm,
rough around the edges, Rashawn, you know that.
I
And
do.
I see her and I hear her sometimes and she humbles me.
Mm.
Like, man, you know? And then I think how
Yeah,
blessed I am to have her in my
yes,
life to I always say God send her to me to
yeah,
even out those edges so they're not so sharp.
yeah, yeah,
And I've learned a lot from her.
yeah.
Seeing the world through her and then even the kids at school, seeing
Hmm.
their world through their
Hmm.
eyes, like through their laughter. That's what keeps me going every day, honestly.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I spent the afternoon with two of my staff. Well, they call me mom, I write,
Right.
and so, um, and we have been talking with them and, just doing all the things. And so we were just sitting there and I had the best time with them. I had the best time. And they call me their safety. I'm their safety net. I'm their moral support. And
Right.
so just sitting there and we just started talking about just different things. And we had like 10 kids and so I was showing them certain things and I said, well, you see what, this happens. And just to see how they interact with the kids and just to see how we were just there laughing about things in life and seeing their faces light up, right? And the kids' faces, they started lighting up and livening up and talking with the kids. And I'm just like, I didn't even know you knew how to say a word like that. I didn't know, and
Hmm.
we're just sitting there just laughing in that moment. And so there are times when, as leaders, we need to stop and just sit and chill with our staff. And we've
Hmm.
had other places to eat 100%. But at that time, they needed me for those 2.5 hours or whatever. And so they hate it when I leave. But it was in that time, I'm just like, wow. I texted them, I said, I really enjoyed being with y'all this afternoon. And they're like, see, that's why you need to stay with us longer or whatever they said. But it was
Right.
just amazing just to be there and laugh with them. And we laugh all the time. But my brain was not centered on work or deadlines or any of these things. I was with them in that moment. And so I want
Right.
to know from you as a leader, right? We deal with a lot of things, right? And so when you get that moment to just learn and just learn about your kids, learn about the center, learn about your staff, how do you shut everything off so you can be one with them in that moment to catch those laughing moments?
I um I let my assistant know sometimes, like, let the answering machine answer the phone. Like, don't just put it down. Let's go say hi to everybody. I leave my phone in the office, my cell phone. I just don't pay attention to anything else. No clipboard, no, hey, what are y'all doing? And can I join you? And they're like, of course. And we're on the floor together and we're laughing and we're sharing stuff. And, you know, they always tell me that they enjoy it, but they have no idea what it does for me. Like it
Yeah,
disconnects me from the things that I don't want to do, like because it's
yeah,
tedious or because it stresses me out. And,
uh,
like today, I came back from our morning meeting thing that we had, and they were like, "Where have you been?" Like they were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm good. Are y'all okay?" Like,
yeah.
well, it was really quiet and we missed you, and then
Like you
that was
can't go
my
nowhere.
cue. Yeah, like that was my cue to okay, I went in, I talked to everybody, I said hi. Like I went room to room. And
Hmm.
after I finished, it was like I needed that. I didn't know that I needed it,
Yeah.
but I needed it. And so
Yeah.
I really try to, I try to get my staff, I really try to get to know them on a personal level because they are my family. They're my work family, and
Absolutely.
so I, when I do say good morning to them every day or whatever it is, I try to connect with them,
Yeah.
like I have a staff member going to Monterey, California this weekend. It's a 2-day trip. And she's like, I've never been. And I handed her something and I said, here's a list of these amazing restaurants on this wharf. You can do some whale watching. And she was like, what? You've been?
Oh.
And we got into this conversation about how amazing it is. And so she was so excited. And she's like, I can't believe you remember it. And I'm like, well, of course, we talked about it. And you said
Mhm.
you didn't have any like idea what you were going to do. So these are just suggestions. You don't have to do them. And she was, you know, and so to me, I have to have something personal to say every day because
Right.
that's important that they know that I know them on that level. They're not just my
Yeah.
employee. They're my work family. They are family,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they also know that it doesn't matter who's there visiting, cause you've been in my center.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
door is always open. And if my staff has a question I stop. Yes. How can I help you? What do you need
Mhm.
from me to make your day better? I'll do it.
Right.
And I had a TRS mentor tell me the other day, she goes, did you really just ask your staff member that? And I said, I did. I have a young staff member who came in and I said something. I said, hey, did you eat today? Because I knew she was
Mm.
struggling a little bit, and she had said, no, I'm kind of low on cash. And I said, okay, well, blah, 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 go to your room. And I said, I left you a little note on your shelf there. And, oh, okay, I'll go get it. And she came back and she hugged me and she walked out. And she said, what was that all
Mm.
about? And I said, I knew she was short on funds. So I had bought her like a McDonald's gift card. And
Oh.
she was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's like my family. I can't, I can't go to
Yeah.
lunch and know that one of my staff members is struggling or whatnot. Like,
Correct.
it's not a good feeling, they
No.
take care of
Mm-mm.
me. So
Mhm.
I take care of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really important for
And
sure.
it's in those moments, yeah, and it's in those moments that, and we're, learning through laughter, if y'all know any of my podcast, like, the questions and things could go several different ways. But it's in doing something like that that you learn about your staff and you start to learn a little bit more about them and takes the edge off of supervisor staff member, and kind of leads you into okay, she's human. She's not
Right.
what I thought she was. She's not, all these things, that I thought. And so let's talk about, so we were in a meeting, an alliance meeting, and we were students.
Right.
And Hilda and I are veterans. We're just going to put it out there. We are
We are old
veterans in this.
school.
Yes. And so we were sitting at this meeting. There was one young lady who was barely less than 2 years, 3 years into the business. And her and the other lady at our table, she was older and she had been around it a while, but she was a little bit more quiet. And so we were sitting there talking. And actually, I'm going to tell you something that you probably did not hear. But we were talking, and so I have to remind myself that in certain settings, I'm a student, but I know so
Right.
much, and it just flows out my lips. But in that moment, and I did a TikTok of you and I talking. How do you what kind of student, and I'm off script here, what kind of student are you in an environment where you are an expert?
Um, I'm very quiet because
Okay.
I like to take it all in. I like to listen
Mm-hmm.
first and kind of decide how I want to process that or how I want to direct anything towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's best to just kind of step back and
Mm-hmm.
listen and be like, oh, okay, you know, and
Yeah.
kind of, if they're asking for advice, it's kind of like, well, I don't want them to feel that they're wrong,
Right.
but I know you're wrong, but I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just going to maybe a suggestion, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also not afraid to speak my mind. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't like to candy coat. I don't, it is what it is, and let's take it for what it is, you know?
Right.
Um, and what you do with that, it's completely up to you. And so
Yeah.
I'm very much the student that stands back and listens, processes, then reacts to it, you know? Um, and I also don't take offense to a lot of things. Like I'm very thick skinned, you know that.
Yep.
Um, I just like to listen and take it in
Yeah.
and learn what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do, you know, because we all have our ideals and what fits in our world and what fits for our center. So I'm very, sometimes I take information and I'm like, there's no way that's ever going to happen
Right.
at my center, you know? And then there's times
Right.
when it's like, you know, that's a, that's a really good way to approach that, you know, because I feel that even though we know the things that we know, sometimes we can learn. We pick up
Yeah.
things from other people,
For
you know? And so for me, that's what I do. I'm very much the listen, and then you're going to get a reaction out of me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
when it comes to learning that, yeah, that's how I am.
How do you intentionally bring joy into your work with educators and children?
Um, I would say just conversation. Like I said, I'll make my little remarks. And so anything that I do with my children, whatever it is, whether it's a good morning greeting,
Mm-hmm.
like you said earlier, it's okay to be silly. It's
Yeah.
okay to be happy and joyous. It doesn't matter what kind of day I'm going to have, that I
Right.
know that I'm going to have, because it's going to be a crazy day because there's four people out. That's not their fault. That's
Right.
not their fault at all. That has nothing to do with them. So why am I going to be like, "Hi, good morning," and just keep walking or ignore them?
Yeah.
I make it a point to greet every one of my kids that walks in the door when I'm there early in the morning, and to greet them by name. And it's so funny
Mm-hmm.
because you have parents correcting them. No, it's Miss Garza. And I'm like, no, it's okay if they call me Hilda. Like, I'm okay with that because we're friends. I'm their,
Right.
I'm their safe zone. So
Right.
let's start off the day with a smile and a hug and happiness,
Mm.
because we're going to have fun today. One way or another, we're going to have fun today.
Yes.
And
Okay.
every night I make it a point to reach out to my staff. We have a little texting thing that we do. Um, And I tell them, I I thank them every night. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just the word thank you. Nothing more,
Yeah.
nothing less.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say, you know what? I couldn't do what I do without you guys. Thank you for all you do. You know, even if it's on a Thursday and it's been a hell of a week, I always tell them,
Yeah.
hey, one more day and it's the weekend. Tomorrow, bring all that joy you have and make it a good day. Have a good day on purpose, right? You know how sometimes things happen and it just happens. It's not on purpose, it just happens. Well, you know what? Then let's have a good day on purpose. There's no
Facts.
reason why we can't make our day good, because there's always
Facts.
something good in every day, right?
Yep.
And I'm not, you know, I'm not one of those people who's like a philosopher and I'm going to use all these big words with you. And, you know, for all of you guys listening to me, I am who I am. And
Yep.
you know, I don't change for anybody. I'm not perfect, but what I do know is that I love what I do, and I'm going to make sure that those kids learn to have a good day on purpose, and that my staff
Mm.
understands that without joy and without
Yeah.
intentionally having a good day, you're going to have a really crappy day. And that's on you.
Absolutely.
And the problem is that when all your kids are crying and there's disciplinary issues, because it's because you allowed that. You brought that into your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
When you bring the joy, the intentional joy, there's
Mm-hmm.
intentional happiness. It's an intentional good day.
Right.
So when you have a really bad day, you bring that upon yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things that we can't avoid, but nobody can take joy away from you. It's how
Yeah.
you treat it is how your day is
Yeah.
going to turn out. Like I said,
Yeah.
yesterday was horrible. I sat there and cried, and then I just laughed because, wow, you know what I mean? Like, wow.
Oh,
And
right. Yeah.
today was a new
Yeah.
day. I got to see you.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
We got
Yes.
to celebrate a lot of things, and
Yep.
I met a new person that sat at our table. I didn't know her, and she seemed really nice.
Oh, yes.
And
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you know, we had some fun. We had some laughs.
Yep.
Um and that was great. That was great. And I went back to my center, and then I bonded with my staff, and I made today like I had forgotten about yesterday. Like
Yes.
today was great. You know, I have staff members who are way older than me coming up to me and just hugging me and saying, "You know, I just love you. I'll see you tomorrow." And they
Oh.
leave, and I'm just like, "I love you too." Like sometimes
Oh.
you need, it's like they know I need that hug and they just do it. And
Yeah.
that's amazing, you know? So I bring the joy intentionally, even if it's there or not.
Yeah.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to bring it.
Absolutely. And you said something, I'm going to find it because sometimes we don't have it. And
Right.
sometimes we bring, our issues, or we bring, our yesterday, what happened yesterday, and we bring it, and it's like, no, let me sit here and find the joy, because if I don't, this thing is going to be with me all day, and I still got 8 hours to go through. I just got here, right? And so you said something amazing about finding the joy. So let me ask you, if you had a theme song for who you are as a person, what would your theme song be?
Oh man. I actually have two. I
Okay.
have two. Old school song, House of Pain,
Okay.
Jump Around.
Oh, okay.
That's me.
Okay.
And then the Willy Wonka, the Imagination song. I always forget the name of it, but I think it's
Oh,
like Pure
yeah.
Imagination. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are my two songs. Those are my
Oh,
two modes. That's, you know, when I'm with my
and those are on
kids,
separate
and
spectrums.
oh, for sure. And I'm a Gemini, so I go from one to the other like in seconds.
Well,
And then
that's
I mean, if I had
definitely
to throw a third one in there, because I'm a
okay.
Gemini, it would be Disturbed, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. So
Oh,
I have a huge genre of songs, but those three
let the
for
bodies hit the
sure.
floor. Okay.
I mean,
Um,
you know,
yeah, that's not scary at all.
no,
Um,
not at all. Not at all.
okay. Okay. So finish this sentence. When we laugh together, we.
Grow together.
Ooh. Tell me about that.
We grow as friends. We grow
Okay.
as a hug, like a safety blanket, you know? I have very few friends that I can say that make me feel that I'm in my safe zone. You know, people who,
Mm-hmm.
like you, I can turn around and say, "Hey, I can disagree with. I can, even if it's like politics, I don't like politics. I hate them. But even if we were to
Yeah.
have a disagreement, I think I can count them in one hand where those are people that I can laugh with, and I
Yeah.
could be totally against what they're saying and we can laugh about it, like together, you know,
Yeah.
and it not be offensive to each other, and just, so I feel like you grow because your bond gets stronger. Because where else but
Yeah.
with those people, through laughter, can you disagree and still laugh about it?
Right.
You
Right.
know?
And we recognize we're not going to always agree, and that's fine.
Right.
You know,
That's totally
sometimes,
okay.
say, and I'm just like, hey, that's her thing, but it doesn't stop the friendship. It doesn't stop the camaraderie. It doesn't stop the collaboration. It doesn't stop, the way our brains think. Our minds, when it comes to this profession, is probably like 95% spot on,
For sure.
in sync. Um, and that's what makes, every time we get together in the classroom, I have to hunch her a little bit, because
Yep.
if depending on what we're saying, she starts to get on a roll, and I'm just like, shh.
Hmm.
But that's what makes us unique. And one of the things that was said, it got back to me from one of the young ladies, was that she learned a lot at our table over the last few times that we've sat together. She learned a lot from us.
Nice.
And as an experience and as veterans, we poured a lot of things into her that she didn't think or consider. And so that person was like, so I just wanted you to know that someone, you know, loved and thought highly of you. And I said, well, I'm going to tell my friend in an open space because she deserves that credibility as well, because we were doing it together, just,
Uh-huh.
you know, going one off the other, you know, vibing off each other the way that we do. So that is a testament to our fortitude and um, our loyalty to this profession.
For sure. And our
Um,
laughter, because me and you are
and
always
our
laughing.
laughter. Yeah.
Our
And,
laughter,
you
and
know,
we're growing. Like our friendship has grown over the
yes,
years. And that's why I say laughter equals growth, you know,
yes.
because you're
And
able
you have
to,
to laugh.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
See?
yeah. And we know that the times in which we live, it's really, really, you know, sticky and really, really right now. But
For sure.
laughter, you know, gets us through. Like the other night, it was so weird. I had just, you know, got out of the shower, went to my room, you know, and I was putting on my clothes. Like I was getting ready to go to work and it was like 11:30. And I was like, Rashad, what are you doing? And so I just started laughing at myself. And some people are just too stuck in themselves to laugh, too stuck in, you know, who they are to laugh. You better unclog your little arteries and laugh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you learn a lot about yourself, right? There's a lot of people that don't laugh. They don't like to laugh. They don't like whatever. But you, believe it or not, when you laugh and smile, you work a lot of muscles in your face.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, and that just lets people know you're approachable, lets people know that you're lovable. So I love that. Okay. Let's see. One more. Hmm. What advice would you give to a leader who's forgotten how to laugh?
Um, I would tell them that they need to take a step back and remember why they do what they do. Because if you're a leader
Mm-hmm.
and you expect people to follow, you're not going to get anywhere without the laughter.
Yeah,
You're taking
yeah,
yourself too serious, and nobody likes that. Nobody wants somebody who takes it over the top. You know, you don't need to
right.
be over the top to get your point across. You don't need to be super, like I said, I'm rough around the edges and I like me. You know, for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, there was a period in my life that I didn't. And I went through some very huge, huge emotional changes and into a deep depression, even.
Mm.
And it was, it was just a really dark time in my life, you know,
Yeah,
and I never, God, and the more I tried to like, dig myself out of that depression, I was angrier. I noticed that I was getting madder and madder and it was frustration because I couldn't pull myself out of it. Well, how am
right.
I supposed to pull myself out of it if I don't find the positive in it, you know? And I learned through another friend of mine who I became a really good close friend, you know, and we're teaching together and we're walking down the hall and she makes this comment like she just comes out and
Mm.
says out of the blue. Like, you know, like me, it's like me and you having lunch together and just laughing. And she says, well, girl, you know, when I almost took my life and I stopped, like
Whoa.
just dead. What? And in my head, all I could think was, here's this gorgeous,
Wow.
beautiful, got it together woman with this beautiful baby and this handsome husband. And she has her life together and what?
Mm.
Like I couldn't, I just for a minute, and she looked at me and she laughed. She said, "What?" She goes, "You now, Rashawn. You know how I am. I have a smart
I,
remark for everything, like I've said before." And she looked at me. She goes, "Well, let me have it." I said, "What?" And she goes, "Why are you so serious? You look like you're about to cry." And I did. I started crying. And she
mm.
said, "No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to cry." She's all because
Mm.
I pulled myself out of that, and the fact that I
Yeah.
can say it means that I've grown and that
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for your punchline. And I just looked at her and I just couldn't, I had nothing to say. And then I realized the reason I didn't have anything to say was because so many times that thought had crossed through my head, and I wasn't brave enough to say it.
Right.
And so
Right.
when I said it, it was like, oh my God. And then I started laughing. Like I just couldn't stop laughing. And she
Mm.
hugged me and she said, now we're laughing together. That's what I was waiting for.
Aw.
And I just kind of like, she taught me something through, through her pain and her everything. She taught me something, and that was pretty remarkable. And then I realized you're taking yourself way too serious. Like, what are you doing?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
nobody's going to listen when you take yourself so
Right.
serious,
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've realized that. So that would be my advice. Like, don't take yourself so serious. Be human,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
silly, be happy. Understand that people have issues. Understand that
Yeah.
sometimes for some people, like that shy little 17-year-old who was crying in the classroom,
Mhm.
crying, her heart broken because a grown up, a bully told her, you're worthless. You're no good with children. You better
Yeah.
rethink your career choices.
Yeah.
And look at her now,
Yeah.
rocking it at circle time, owning her
Oh,
own daycare center. And do you remember what I told you when I walked in there and I said, stop it right now? And you were
yes.
crying. And I said, stop. Nobody can
Yep.
stop. But stop. She doesn't care that she hurt your feelings. Nobody cares. How are you going to turn this around?
Right.
But she
Right.
said, who cares? Who cares what she says? You do what's good for you. You don't worry about what that idiot thinks. I remember saying that. Like
Yeah.
I was so mad at you because you let her make you cry. And I was like, no, that is not allowed.
Yeah.
And even till this day, when Rashawn has some days and I have to, who am I going to go smack around? Because I will. And, and I get laughter out of her. I know that she's still there.
Mhm.
Sometimes us
Yeah.
as adults, we need that to get pulled out of that. And so I don't think anybody who loses their way, you need to find your way because nobody's going to pull you out of that except you.
That's
And
right.
understand that you cannot lead people with a negative attitude without laughter. You
That's
can't.
right.
You
That's
can't.
right. That's right. That's right.
You
Man,
know.
that she said a mouthful. And I hope that you guys that are listening truly take in because this is a veteran, just like myself, who have been in and around these trenches and we understand the deadlines. We understand the harshness of, disrespectful parents and disrespectful staff and all the things that go with it. We understand that. But let's be clear, laughter is not a distraction. It's a doorway.
Yeah.
It's a doorway to change your spark. It's a doorway to change your current thought process that may look, I remember one time when I was running my program by myself because all my teachers were like, "Oh, we're all going to get pregnant and give birth at the same time." I I remember being so burnt because I was open to close every day by myself. Our numbers were smaller then, and I remember just like I'm going to lose my mind. I am going to lose my mind. And I remember asking one of my babies, I said, "You want a center? You're only a year, but I can give it to you, and you can run it how you want, right?" He's only 12 months old, looking at me, but I was overwhelmed, and so when I finally came to myself, I just started laughing, like, "Girl, shut up and get to work,"
Uh-huh.
you know. And
Exactly.
and so we turned on music and started dancing with the kids, and it by doing that, it also helps the children regulate their emotions, manage transitions, and feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
Laughter brings joy. If you've watched any of those videos of like kids laughing at the weirdest things, and that applies to you too. You cannot be so distracted, so hung up on your life that you can't take a few minutes to laugh. So here is your challenge. I want you to lead with laughter this coming up next week. Kids are going to be out of school. School agers
Mm-hmm.
are going to be coming, and it's going to be crazy. Readjusting schedules, hiring school age people. It's going to be crazy. But in the midst of all that, I want you to take a few minutes to laugh. It could be at the most weirded time. It could be at the most saddest time. Well, don't cry at the saddest time, but it could be at a time that someone would deem inappropriate. And at that moment, you just need to shake your brain and laugh. That is my challenge for you. I want you to make room for joy, make room for laughter this week, even if it's just 30 seconds of silliness. I want you to do it. I challenge you to do exactly that. So here is our mic'd up moment that we do after every episode. We do a mic'd up moment. So your mic'd up moment for today is laughter is leadership. When you laugh, you give yourself permission to breathe, to connect, to create, and to heal. So
Yep.
this week, don't just teach, don't just lead, laugh. And let the laughter be the light that keeps your classroom, your business, and your spirit growing, right? So keep it going, keep it growing. If you want to hear more, we're going to bring her back on. We have some other fun topics that we want to talk about, but this podcast is different than early childhood coach with a childcare experience. But give them a few more, give them one more nugget as we head up out of here. What's one more nugget that you can give our listeners?
When, you know, as a person, again, don't take yourself so serious. Have fun,
Mhm.
laugh. And you know what? I'm gonna share something with y'all that I should have shared it today with you earlier, and I forgot all about it. But so I'm looking through Facebook, right? And I'm feeling super old, people. Like I said, I'm old school. Been in this way too long. And I knew this day was coming because I've seen these kids that used to be in my 3-year-old class, right? They're in high
Oh yeah.
school and they're freshmen, sophomore. So all of a sudden, one of them is, not one of them. I've had several go through that, but she's a senior and she's graduating. And so she comes to my center the day before yesterday and she stops by and she said, "Hey, I was on my way to school and I wanted to stop by because," she goes, "Do you remember how much fun we used to have in your classroom?" And at that time, she was going through something with her parents. She was 3, had just turned 3. And her parents were going through this ugly divorce and there was a lot going on. And I remember her and her friend would get their blocks and they loved to sing, right? They were girly girls, beautiful blonde hair, blue eyes girls, all American girl. And she would just sing. Like she would make a make believe microphone. And she said, "You know what stuck with me all those years, all these years?" She goes, "That you literally would stand on a shelf with a flashlight and turn off the lights and you would let us
Uh-huh.
perform." She goes, "You would just let us have a concert."
Oh.
And she goes, "And that just stuck with me." She was like, "You're like the coolest teacher ever. And
Oh.
over the years, you've become a friend and you're like my second mom. And it's
Oh.
so nice to be able to come and see you and tell you this." She's like, "That a lot of what I've done in my life is because of you, because you encouraged it. You egged me
Yeah.
on, even if it was the craziest. Like when you would tell me, 'Oh, KK, you look so beautiful with your blue eyeshadow.' You lied." She goes, "But thank you for that because you built
Yeah.
my confidence up." She goes,
Oh.
and you know what? Those moments, those moments are why I bring the joy and the laughter. And you
Yeah.
can't take it all so
Oh,
serious,
good.
And
No.
that meant more to me than she could ever know. And for her to bring
Yeah.
me, like,
Yeah.
hand deliver her graduation invitation and said, "I need you there." That
Oh.
that was it. Like you know,
Yeah. 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 And those are the moments that as educators we get to experience, and they're not our children,
they're
but
not.
because of the mark we have made a mark that these kids will never forget. Prime example. And it wasn't huge. It was just she had a flashlight, turned out the lights, and let him have a stage to perform. And she's like, "You've got to be there. There's just no question. There's no question." I love that. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in to tonight's episode. I definitely her and I were texting about something completely different, and learning through laughter came up during the text message thread. And I'm just like, that's an episode. And she was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's do it. And I was like, no, let's do it. She was like, well, that's what I said. Let's do it. Right. She's that kind of person. And so we did just that quick. And so thank you for tuning in to Mic'd Up with Mama Shaun. If this episode made you smile, reminded you of what you needed to do and why you need to do it, share it with a fellow educator or a parent. Right? There's a lot happening with our parents. There's a lot happening with our children, a lot happening in early childhood. And all of that that's happening can really be a distraction and stop us from laughing because it's some heavy, heavy, heavy stuff that breeds heavy emotion. So I want you to share this. I want you to share this, leave a comment, and let us know how what this episode did for you. And I don't ever, when I do these calls to action, I don't ever do it just to do it. I genuinely mean it because you guys are in the trenches like we are, whether it's as a director, an owner, a parent,
For
you're
sure.
in the trenches like us. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And remember that learning never stops, especially when you're leading with love and a
Yep.
little laughter. It keeps going. So until next time, stay mic'd up and keep shining, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.